So I'd like to think of ourselves as the liaisons between City of Hope and the community, right? We're the bridge that is built between the two. And so what we do is we offer different community programs, including free screenings, free health education programs, free capacity building for our community partners, and we also do a lot of health disparities research. But all of the work that we do is based on community need and with community input.
Well, one specific tribal community within Arizona, they approached TGen and were like, hey, we're seeing this large amount of kidney cancer cases, can we get your input? So it was actually the community reaching out. And so I really think that was a step forward in terms of developing a trust.
The whole point of research is, for the community to use it, right? We have the saying from bench to bedside to community, because it does us no good if it stays in the bench, if it stays at the bedside. And so the best way to know what research is going to get to that point is to hear from the people it's going to impact, is to have the people who it's going to impact be involved in the process. One of the benefits of being from the Latino community, being from the Los Angeles community, is that I'm able to open doors that other people wouldn't, because I am able to relate to the community, whether I speak their language, I come from a similar background, even if it's something as small as a cultural nuance.
When I was looking for jobs in terms of my postdoctoral fellowship, I came across what TGen was doing with some of the other tribes in Arizona. And I got really excited because it's not just them and their motivation, it's actually what the community wanted. Like I said, they reached out to TGen and they said, hey, we're seeing this rising case of kidney cancer in our community. We really don't know why. Yes, there could be genetic mutations that can contribute or increase your risk for cancer, but other times it's just because of their environment. And so one of the biggest things for tribal communities is that they live off their environment. They still have the plants, their herbs. A lot of them have their own crops. And so the fertilizers that are in the ground actually can contribute to their cancer. And not many people know that unless you study heavy metal toxicity. And so that just kind of really tied in terms of what really attracted me to TGen. Was it wasn't just, let's focus on mutation X. No, let's actually understand the bigger picture. Let's understand what the community is exposed to that is driving their cancer. And so that is actually remarkable.
So one of the things that we've used is worked with community leaders. So in the Latino community, we use promotoras, which are community health workers. And these are lay people in the community who have gone through training, different topics. For us, our promotoras learn about cancer screening. We have promotoras who do clinical trials, and so that they navigate people through the whole process. Because this is the mom at the PTA meeting with you. This is the mom who, goes to the same grocery store you do. And if she's telling you, hey, clinical trials, this is what I know about this trial, it's really safe, it's really going to be helpful for us and for our kids, it really makes a difference, because it's really coming from somebody. So we do that with churches, whether it's pastors or priests or, the first ladies of the church. Working with these community leaders for us has really opened a lot of doors in reaching some of these communities.
And a lot of the programs, the research programs that are being established with the various tribal communities within Arizona, we're making sure that we include some of those leaders, whether it's the tribal chairman or community liaison, and just getting them involved. I have never seen this level of respect before until I came to TGen. And that's one thing I really admired about TGen and my mentor, is that level of respect that he has for the community. Because, developing that trust, it definitely takes time, but and it's for a good reason.
We actually, like you were saying, involve the leaders in the study. We actually work with leaders and start from scratch. Like, we help them apply for grants for their own studies, and that where maybe we're a partner and we bring in our science or our evaluation or our data capacity and help them there, because then that leads to sustainability. I don't want some research project or some study to come to a community and the minute City of Hope leaves, it ends. We want it to stay in that community, and so we work on building community sustainability and making sure that they're trained and capable of doing this, and then providing that technical support.
If they understand from start to finish, and even after the project's finished, that trust will still be there, and they'll be more welcoming for other future studies.
Exactly. And I'm so glad City Hope and TGen are doing that, right? They built that trust in the community. They're able to do this research, and then they're able to bring it back. We talk about the importance of participating in that aspect, about if we don't participate, if people who look like me, people from my community, women and people of color don't participate, then those things will not be made for us. So it needs to be by us, for us, right? And so that's why it's so important to participate. I focus on the collectivistic culture of the Latino community. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for our community, para nuestra comunidad, which means for our community. And so that's why we're doing the research, because you might not get the immediate benefit, but that doesn't really matter in Latino communities as much. That's not how you sell, participation in a clinical trial, but you say this is to benefit your children, your children's children, and your community as a whole, and that really has an impact. Do you see some of the similarities in the Indigenous community as well?
One of the other things that I really appreciated when we started recruiting some of the tribal community members in the various cancer studies was that one of the biggest things what they wanted, we had to bring in a medicine healer to bless the area. And it's different for each tribal communities. So depending on what descendant you are of, if a piece of you you're not whole as a body, you're not going to go into the next world. And so by blessing your sample, that allows you passing to the next world if you were to succumb to your disorder or disease.
It's so respectful too of the whole process. And so I think it's really wonderful that they would do that, to be respectful of the community.
There's so much overlap between the Latino communities and tribal communities. It's just mind-blowing.
That's why I think it's so important to speak to other researchers, to have this communication, but it's so important to have that connection and that collaboration, because the only people who are going to benefit from that is our community.